Hello, welcome to the Retro Game Club Podcast, Season 6, Episode 20, which is also Episode 183. I am Rob, and joining me is someone who just bought 1UP's new token dispenser, Hugh.
Actually, I would actually probably buy a token dispenser if that was a real product. I think I would. I have a small little tin cup here with one token from like every arcade I've been to that used tokens. Maybe I'll eBay them someday. There was one back when I lived in Pennsylvania, and that may come up again in this episode. I don't know. There was a place called the Fun Factory. That was a real arcade, and it used grooved tokens. So there were grooves on each side, and then their coin slots were modified so you could only fit their grooved tokens in. I guess maybe they had a problem. Maybe people figured out how to make slugs or something that worked in their machine. I don't know.
Yeah.
But if you were playing a game and it had like a continue countdown, that was super stressful.
Yeah, I haven't seen a token dispenser in a long time, but my dad does have a vending business, and I would spend a lot of time in that warehouse because I would like help him fix something and then go get a candy bar or something.
Yeah.
And there's a ton of quarter machines back there, and I always thought like, if I ever open an arcade, I got this quarter machine thing sorted out.
Yeah, but now it's all like the card. You buy like a not credit card, but a piece of plastic that
or by
so you don't
the
know
hour.
how much you're paying. Yeah, or it's by the hour, or you have no clue how much you're actually paying to play the thing. It depends where you go. Some places are by the hour, others are it's some kind of balance.
Yeah. What's been going on since we last talked? We've both been pretty busy, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I've been busy with like real life. I haven't been playing a lot of games. I did get Echoes of Wisdom, but I haven't started it. So if you have, don't share any spoilers.
I will not spoil anything.
It's going to end up being like a winter game for me, is my guess. I'm trying to finish up Trails Through Daybreak first. I think I'm past halfway at this point. But by the time I finish that, I think East 10 will also be out in the US. So then I'll have two games that I really want to start, and I don't know which one I'm going to pick. I just know that between like January and April, I tend to knock down a lot of big games.
Yeah.
That is literally all I've got going on, which is absolutely nothing. What's going on with you?
I actually beat Echoes of Wisdom last night, and I'd put it in my top third of Zelda games. It's pretty good. It might have the best music in all of Zelda. At least top 3, I would say.
Okay.
And, it's really charming. And I'm trying to think if there's anything I could say that would be like a 0% spoiler, but I probably will just leave all that alone.
Yeah, so I only know what's in the trailers for it, which is something happened to Link, and Zelda has like a magic staff that can create things.
Yeah, Echoes.
Yeah, that's all I know about the game.
That's about it.
By the way, like
that's about what there is with the game.
Yeah, and I actually knew less than that going into Breath of the Wild. Like I didn't watch a single trailer for Breath of the Wild.
That's awesome.
I decided I was just going to go into that game totally cold.
That is cool.
Yeah, and that was like I didn't even own a Switch yet, but I pre-ordered it for Wii U, so I played it. That's one of the last games I played, like the day it came out. And my controversial opinion, if we ever do like a controversial gaming opinions episode,
I think every episode is that.
Yeah, but I mean, if we really wanted to get into things that were going to upset people, I prefer Breath of the Wild on Wii U over Switch.
Because of the controller?
Partially because of the controller. But also, there's one really specific thing that's better. It's the Wolf Link amiibo. So I don't recall what Wolf Link amiibo does in the Switch version. Maybe you get Wolf. Does it give you Wolf Link as a sidekick for a little while?
I have no idea. I don't know anything about amiibos, really.
Okay, well, so only on the Wii U version, if you have a completed save game for Twilight Princess, which of course you can't have on the Switch, then the Wolf Link amiibo has like a giant health bar and is just generally more useful because he doesn't die right away. Whereas I think by default he has like 3 hearts. So if you ever played it, you scan the Wolf Link amiibo, and you can only use it once per day. And then Wolf Link appears, and he will like help attack enemies and sniff out items, like, you know, hidden items or just, you know, basic things you're trying to collect.
Cool. I'll have to look up a video on that. I want to replay that game. Maybe this winter.
Yeah, I've replayed it a couple of times. Obviously, I replayed it on Switch because I just, you know, mentioned the differences. But yeah, the problem with Wii U, it's really hard to start. You basically have to delete your old game to start a new one, or create a new Wii U profile. With the Wii U, is kind of limited storage space. I guess Switch, I wouldn't be heartbroken if I deleted that save game.
No. Trying to think what else I've been up to. Oh, I went through, while picking a game for this episode, I went through our Master Game Club game list. And
oh, wow. Okay.
We really started the show off with some bangers. There are some really, like, the first, 20 episodes of Retro Game Club is a lot of amazing games in there. That's all. I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think we both contributed that, where we wanted to knock out some favorites right away. Like at the beginning, we didn't know if we were going to be blunt, I don't think we knew if we were going to last 5 episodes.
Exactly, right? Yeah.
So it's just like, pick your favorite games, just come out strong. And yeah, unfortunately, I'm now at the point where I'm like, geez, there's really no other games I want to talk about anymore.
Yeah.
I'm totally out, man. I could talk about like some games that I just think are okay, but I don't want to do that.
Yeah, I think that's why like podcasts like Hardcore Gaming 101 has an easier time of it, because they could pick newer games. You know, they don't have to just choose retro, which again, I'm on a retro podcast, so I love retro games, but sometimes you're like, which games am I missing that are still amazing?
Yeah, like I have a long list of games that are kind of, you know, they're okay, that I could talk about. So I was stalling because I was going to open up the list of games that we talked about. But it's like, you know, I don't know. Do I want to talk about Coaster Works on Dreamcast? Like I did Theme Park. Coaster Works is literally just building roller coasters on Dreamcast. And it's fun and everything, but I don't really want to talk about that game.
But then you get the games like Kabuki Quantum Fighter, and was it The Last Ninja or Shadow of the Ninja? I forget which games that we choose where we think it's going to be a throwaway game, but they end up being really fantastic, you know?
Yeah, that's the one I was drawing a blank on that. Yeah, you said Shadow of the Ninja. I was thinking Wrath of the Black Manta. Manta.
Yeah, I know what
games,
you mean.
I think they're maybe the same developer. I confuse those games all the time, but I don't think they're actually similar at all.
Mm-hmm. But something that I didn't put in the news, but 1UP just released a claw machine, and that's where our intro came from.
Yeah. Yeah. What is that for? Is it just for the aesthetic?
So it actually works. I think it's for people that just have like man caves and kind of cool basements and have $500 to blow, where you could have a claw machine down there too.
Yeah. I guess if you want to practice.
Yeah. Like
I looked it up, and it's about half the price of a real claw machine. So this is like the arcade 1UP, they're slightly small.
It probably takes less maintenance, and let's see, it has an easy mode for if you want to win every time, normal mode, and then scam mode, which is probably what most claw machines are on.
Yeah.
Comes with 12 plastic capsules, so you could put your prizes in those. Yeah.
Okay.
Really interesting idea. I
mean, you could put
mixed
anything
feelings.
in there, right? You could put, but you could put like bags of Doritos in there or something.
Drugs.
Right? Like whatever. Yeah. Drugs. Yeah. I was thinking that too. But I don't want to open with drugs. You know, it's funny. I was looking at Airbnb rentals recently. So I've got, I don't want to go into, but I'm gonna want to do. There's a few road trips that I want to do, and I was like, it'd be really nice is to like stay off like the Mississippi River for a few days. Right, that I could drive there in a couple hours. Good, nice place. I was looking at a place that was pretty cheap because, the Mississippi River borders a whole lot of nothing.
Yeah.
Like there are some good sized towns on the Mississippi River, of course, but then the bulk of it is just very, very small towns. And there was one place that it was like $80 a night. It was not not very expensive. Maybe they have like $1,000 cleaning fee, like all Airbnbs.
Yeah.
To trick you. But it was filled with these one-up arcade games. Like they bought, I have 5 or 6 of them. And clearly they bought them, as a selling point for their rental. And that's where I was looking at. I'm like, oh, that's right. Those things are super short.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I still have 4 of them boxed up, and I shipped them to Sydney, and they are currently in a storage unit because I don't want to open those up and have to move again. But you can't. Those are harder to get here, so that's why I didn't sell them before moving here. I was like, But my point to that is 3. I forget if it's 2 or 3 of them. I bought the sit down version because the seat's not attached. So for the Star Wars arcade and for Outrun, I figured like that's better than hunching over. Just you sit down.
Yeah, that's the thing. I have seen one of these in person. I saw like a Mortal Kombat 2 one at Best Buy or whatever, and it had the like extra stand on it. Like it has a little thing you can put on it, and I still was hunched over and like super uncomfortable. And if I had a second player, like we'd be way on top of each other.
Oh yeah, I couldn't imagine those 4 or 6 player games, but they do. They do make a few models that are actual full scale, but I don't think those sold well. So I don't know if those actually are still a thing.
Yeah, that's why I wonder how much of this arcade one-up. I used the word aesthetic before. I wonder how much of this is just I want to have a room that has these cabinets in it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but I do really hope if they make a 720, I will buy that day one. I love that game, and they are very expensive, and it's probably because of the strange joystick that they haven't made one yet. Like that's got sourcing something like that's got to be a nightmare.
But didn't they do Paperboy with the bicycle controller?
I don't know. I know they did. They definitely did Tron because I own it. Let's see. One up. Because if you go on eBay and search for Paperboy arcade, those bike handles are very expensive. I don't see a Paperboy.
Yeah, I don't see it. I see a machine that has Paperboy, but it's with normal joysticks.
Time Crisis with the guns, but light guns are easy. Yeah, I guess they don't have a lot of non-stick games. Interesting. Anyway, should we move on?
I see Paperboy. Yeah, Paperboy cabinets are expensive. Look at that.
Oh, it's good. Those things, yeah. There's a whole second market of people machine shopping the internal parts for that bike rack joystick thing. So yeah, it's a strange one to own. I've never owned a Paperboy for that reason.
Okay, well here someone on Etsy is selling a 1/12 scale model Paperboy.
1/12.
Yeah. So
It's like for Barbies.
it is. This is. I don't think you can play it. It's hard to tell from the pictures here. It's just if you want a little miniature Paperboy.
I want a 12X version of Paperboy. I want it to be as big as a house.
Yeah, that would be fun. You'd need like multiple people to control it.
Exactly, yeah. It'd be like a Namco museum or something.
They describe it as 4 doll houses.
There you go. I see. That's amazing.
Yeah, I've never thought of building a dollhouse arcade before. That's kind of a cool concept.
Yeah, like a diorama type thing. That might be cool.
Yeah, like some people build like model trains. They have the big model train set in the basement. Why wouldn't you build a model arcade? I mean, the real arcade obviously is more fun, but that'd be kind of a cool project.
Yeah.
All right,
I really
we
hope
should
you
get to
do
the
this.
actual show.
But yeah,
Yeah, I'm not going to. My basement has way too much junk in it for me to do anything like this.
Should we do some news?
Yes, we. Hold on, I was looking. Was there anything else we want to talk about in the new business? No, there is not. Okay, news: Super Game Boy Plus.
Yeah, man. We have actually some really cool articles this week. Not many, but cool ones. So apparently, the original Super Game Boy was 2.4%, faster than the actual Game Boy, making a link cable impossible. And also, like, it's really strange that it's not the same speed. That would drive me insane, even though 2% isn't that much. So this fixes that problem. So this is a GitHub link, and I don't know if you just build this board yourself or what. Yeah, you do. And it's a new Super Game Boy that has a link cable that runs at clock exact time of the Game Boy. Pretty
Okay,
neat.
so the link cable obviously relies on very precise clock speed. Interesting. All right, so I think I own a Game Boy link cable, but I've never thought of using it.
Yeah, and you've never noticed that the Super Game Boy doesn't have one? I've never owned a Super Game Boy, so I definitely didn't notice.
I've owned multiple Super Game Boys, and I have one right now. But I still prefer the GameCube. The GameCube player does not have the link cable either, I believe. Never even really thought about it. Maybe it does. I have to look at that. The GameCube, I suppose, once I got the GameCube adapter, I haven't used the Super Game Boy again. And now I have an analog pocket. You could use that either.
Yeah. Can't you do something with the GameCube where you plug in your Game Boy, or do you plug in your Game Boy Advance to it?
It's Game Boy Advance you can use as an extra controller. Not like an extra controller, but like a bonus player.
Yeah.
So like in Wind Waker, someone with I tried this once with my kids. It was really terrible. You plug the Game Boy Advance into the GameCube, and then the other player controls Tingle.
Okay.
But you don't see Tingle on the screen. They have like a separate screen that's like this weirdly angled view of where you currently are. And Tingle can sometimes find like hidden items like gems or hearts.
Interesting.
No, it's bad. I think it's called Tingle mode. I literally think it's called Tingle mode.
That's funny.
This could be, again, bad false memory. Waker. Tingle mode. Something like that. What does Tingle do in Wind Waker? Type GBA, I think. Tingle Tuner. That's it. It's called the Tingle Tuner. Someone was very upset about me not
well,
having that.
scrolling down on this page, this does require you to take some of the chips off your Super Game Boy and then put them on this new thing. So if you don't want to ruin your current device, you would not want to make this. So maybe only do this with one that is broken. Huh. Interesting. What else do we have? Oh, yeah, I almost cut this article, but we'll see how it goes. The title of the
article about Bleem.
Yeah.
Yes?
Yes, I won't even read the title because it just doesn't matter. But apparently Bleem is back again, not in emulation mode, but in a like game store a game store mode. So kind of like a GOG or something like that. So is Bleem really back? Or I'm going to go ahead and say no.
Well, so on January 4th, 2021, Pico Interactive, who have delivered some things, announced that they acquired the Bleem brand name with plans to start a retro gaming focused online storefront called Bleem Powered.
Mm-hmm.
So, whatever that is. I mean, Pico Interactive at least has delivered products. Like
Yeah, yeah.
they're a perfectly competent company from what I can tell. But I don't know anything about their Bleem plans.
Some remastered Neo Geo games apparently will be on it. Which again, I'm not saying anything bad about this. I'm just saying Bleem is not back. There is a new thing called Bleem that I guess that's what they use the IP for. But I mean, it is really interesting that Bleem did win their court case. They just spent so much money that they couldn't exist anymore. So, Sony did win even though they lost the court case. But I think I have your Bleem. Didn't you send that to me?
I bought it for $2.
Yeah.
At a flea market kind of sale, and I think I sent it to you. Yeah, the box was too big. That sounds awful. The box was too large. I didn't want to deal with it.
Yeah, and I have a nice little,
space.
Nice big box collection, so that was perfect for that.
I don't have room for big box stuff.
Were there any big box games though that you like? If you saw it, you would want to display that one.
Well, I only saved a couple big box games.
King's Quest V, right?
King's Quest V is one of them, and then like Seventh Guest and Myst.
Mm-hmm. Your two favorite
I think
games.
have really cool. Yeah, I too. Well, I like one of those games a little bit.
Yeah.
But there's really great artwork, and then not counting like weird collectible things. Like I have, I imported a copy of East 1 and 2 Eternal, which is a big box game back when that stuff was pretty cheap. I have that up here too.
Oh, that's cool.
And then the biggest box I have is the id Anthology box that I got in like 1996. So you can Google id Anthology box. It's huge.
So that's what, Doom 1 through 3 and something else?
No, it's Doom 1 and 2 and Quake. And then another like kind of archive of like early games. And then a fourth CD that's like the Mac version of all those.
Oh, yeah, that is a big box.
Yeah, so that one I have. It's on my Doom section here, which you can't see from the angle I'm at.
That one is not cheap.
So well, it was 1996. It was a reasonable deal.
Yeah.
For the games, right? Considering Quake was still fairly new then. And then it's the Windows 95 versions of those Doom games, like ones that actually run really well in Windows 95. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so part of my thing is I've been trying to carve out more like display sections where I have like, groupings of similar games. So like I have a Doom section and Monday Night War section over here that you can't see. Literally just games that occurred during the pro wrestling era known as Monday Night War. And like an X-Files section and so on. So I'm trying to do more things like that. So I've been giving Wayfair a lot of my money lately to create some of these displays.
Nice.
But it means cutting back on just like big box stuff that I don't really like. Bleem is neat. I am literally never going to install it. And the box is huge.
Yeah. But speaking of id, we do have Doom running on something.
Doom running on AMD GPUs. What's funny is this is trying to run Doom natively versus just running like an emulator running Doom, which would probably be pretty easy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Relatively speaking, easy. I couldn't do it, but someone else could.
Well, this is probably one of the most difficult ports because a GPU works nothing like a CPU, right? It's very multi-threaded and concurrent, and Doom is very serial. And so I guess there's supposed to be an article on how they actually did this. This article this article we're linking to just talks about that it happened and some very basics on how to run it. But yeah, this person is very smart that did this.
Well, I will go click star right now on the GitHub page.
Yeah, very cool. And what else do we have here? Oh, yeah, I found this one last night. Lost 1983 Programming Language Resurrected by Retro Compute YouTube channel. So this is, yeah, a C64 programming language called microtext. And he couldn't find almost any references to it. And randomly, after years and years, he just saw a disc for sale on eBay, as if, it wasn't like a very rare thing, and picked it up, and he like saved this programming language. I really don't know much else about it other than it's supposed to be simple. Like it's not a difficult like C or assembly programming language. Have you ever heard of this?
I've never heard of it. Yeah. No, never. I mean, I see some people that maybe have emulated it because I see like message boards about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I see a Google, like a Usenet group with someone asking about it. Maybe this is all covered in the YouTube video.
But it looks like a lot of games were programmed in it. Well, not a lot, but at least a few. Yeah, I have not watched the video yet. I've just read through this, so
yeah.
It's actually tonight I'll be watching this. And we actually have a topic this week. This topic was your idea.
It was, yeah. I suppose it was. So there's a phenomenon people use called the Mandela effect, which basically means where a group of people falsely remember an event is happening that didn't happen.
And the event was Nelson Mandela died long before he did, right?
Yeah, which I've never, ever thought that for a second.
No, me neither.
So the one that gets me, now typically these are group things. We're talking about individual memories right now, so this is maybe not group things, although I think two people mention a similar thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of yours, one of yours is similar to a listener one.
Mm-hmm.
Similar, not the same, but similar. And the one that gets me, like the best example I can think of is in Star Wars, C-3PO having a silver leg.
I thought didn't he, or which is the truth?
He does have a silver leg.
Oh, okay,
but I did not know that probably until 1997. Like all the C-3PO figures I had as a kid, he had 2 gold legs.
Yeah, exactly.
And at some point, I saw a rendition or a figure where he has a silver leg. I'm like, well, that's not. Man, did they mess up? And then it was probably around the time they re-released the movies in the theater that it really. I'm like, oh yeah, he has a silver leg. Look at that.
Yeah, and well, the backgrounds. He was either like in a grayish silver background or a brownish, goldish background, on Tatooine. So all those colors kind of blended together, especially in that old film,
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, that's exactly it. Is that I've been watching the original and maybe some VHS copies. So you're right. The color probably didn't look right at all.
Yeah, I do remember that though. Well, how should we do this? Should we start with listener ones or end with listener ones?
Let's end with listener ones.
All right.
So I'll go through mine real quick. So the first one I wrote was probably everything I recall about the Mortal Kombat 2 beta I mentioned in the last episode. Although when I was thinking about it after we were done with the episode, I'm like, wait a minute, I am 100% positive that Sub-Zero's like deep freeze that is part of his finisher, you could use that like a regular move. But that's probably a false memory too.
Have you looked up
wrote down
Mortal Kombat 2 YouTube stuff? Like, is there someone must have done something.
Someone has to have found one of these betas. I'm sure that somehow the beta ROMs leaked to the internet at some
Yeah.
point. I don't know how locked out. Like, I don't know if Midway had different beta versions going to different arcades. I don't know. I did not research that. I'm happy to just remember it the way I do.
Exactly.
Also, I wrote 3 things total. I wrote number 2 here, that there was an adapter that let you use a Turbo Duo as an external CD-ROM drive for PC or Mac.
Mm-hmm.
So I, for a very long time, was completely convinced this was a real product and that we actually sold it at the store I worked at, and it was available around the time that the Turbo Duo launched. After researching it, I found it only ever appeared in a catalog as a item that might be in the store. And the more I looked into it, it appears this thing never launched.
But it did exist because Johnny Turbo went on Computer Chronicles and demoed it.
Yeah, I believe it.
It just never sold.
Actually exist.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I can hold on. So we read the description here. Turbo Duo Intelligent Link. The Turbo Duo not only plays CD-ROM games and Super CD-ROM games, but can also be used as a personal computer CD-ROM drive. Add the Intelligent Link, and you can use your Turbo Duo to access vast amounts of educational and multimedia applications on your personal computer. Compatible with High Sierra, ISO 9660, Macintosh, HFS, Amiga, and IBM. $129.99.
I mean, that's an awesome product.
It is.
Although back then, your Turbo Duo would probably never be next to your computer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I never
Now,
saw
keep in mind-
TVs next to a computer that would be good enough for a CD-ROM.
So I'm going to look at the same catalog here. So Turbo Duo was $300, and that cable was $130.
Mm-hmm.
So that's 300 plus 100, $430 for a CD drive.
Mm-hmm.
So what did an actual CD-ROM drive go for?
I'm going to say $299.
I was hoping there would be one for sale in this catalog. Yeah, so here's the problem. CD-ROM drives were typically sold in bundles. So the cheapest bundle was $399. Fusion CD16.
So that's about the same.
Yeah.
But if you already
Now, that
owned a
is the
Duo...
If you already owned a Duo, yeah. So the Fusion CD16 was an internal drive, 2 of those very 90s looking speakers. This is all kind of knockoff looking stuff, and then a bunch of software that you want. And then for $500, you can get the Sound Blaster kit, the Creative Labs kit, which comes with the Sound Blaster card, internal drive, better speakers, and games you might want.
And that's the package you wanted, because if you're buying a CD-ROM, you probably don't have a Sound Blaster, right?
You might. I mean, if you're a gamer, right? If you're into PC games, there's a good chance you have a Sound Blaster.
Possibly.
But you could have an Ad-Lib or Disney Sound System. It's people laugh, but those were like real competitors at one point.
Yeah, for sure. That's why you have to select which card you have on old games.
And then the third thing I wrote is that I was 100% positive that the store I worked at sold an RGB cable for the Atari Jaguar. Like, it was just in a plastic bag with like a cardboard top. It's basically like if you go to GameStop and you see how they sell used controllers. It's just a thing in a sack on a cardboard hanger. The Jaguar can output RGB, and people make these cables today. But I can find zero evidence that this ever existed as a product in a store in the 90s.
Nice.
So I'm thinking we maybe at some point, like, we got some marketing material on the Jaguar. Probably it was something that appeared in marketing material.
But your memory was hanging in the store.
Hanging in the store, yeah, in the Jaguar section. Well, probably what it was is maybe like Atari sold their AV cables in a bag like that. Mm-hmm. That's the most plausible explanation.
Yeah, yeah.
Or they had an RF adapter. The Jaguar had to have had an RF adapter. like RF adapter and AV cables, probably one of those shipped in a bag like that, but not RGB.
I wrote down quite a few actually. And some of these
Yeah.
I know are not Mandela effect. They're just remembering wrong, but close enough. So Stun Runner, sorry. The first one is Stun Runner, the Atari game, ported to anything other than the Lynx, like Jaguar or 32X. For some reason, I thought it was the 32X, but no, never existed. But I swore, like, I could picture the artwork in my brain. Space Harrier on the TurboGrafx being arcade perfect. Like, I just remember everyone being like, wow, they did it. It's amazing. No, that is not arcade perfect at all. I do think that is one of my favorite ports, but not arcade perfect. The Jaguar was 4 chips, each being 16-bit, which adds up to 64. Of course, that is not the truth. It is 2 32-bit chips.
Right, but it does have like a 64-bit bus at some part of the architecture. But again, like Sega could have claimed the Genesis was 32-bit using the same logic. Again, because like you could do 32-bit numbers on the Motorola 68,000.
Yeah. But I just like, I have memories of magazine articles, saying like, yeah, it's just like 4 Genesis, 68,000s in there. But no, it is 2. Not 68,000s, but you know what I mean. Let's see. Oh, there was a multi-cart for the NES of Ninja Gaiden 1, 2, and 3. And you had some notes on this one.
Yeah, you're thinking of the Super Nintendo game.
Yeah.
Which I can easily remember. Like, no problem. Would you confuse that?
Yeah.
Right? So there was a Super Nintendo game called Ninja Gaiden Trilogy.
Now, did they not upscale, but I guess remaster those at all? Or is it literally the NES versions?
I think it's literally just the NES version. It's not Super Mario All-Stars.
Yeah, that would be amazing. Yeah, I'll have to look that one up.
Yeah, and I think it wasn't sold for very long. I think, I really feel like it got snatched up really, really quickly whenever it came in. I'm looking at screenshots. It doesn't look like they did anything to it.
That's sad. What a missed opportunity. I'm sure there's some ROM hack that does something with it.
It does something to update it.
In fact, this is gonna take 1 second. I'm gonna look up and see. Let's see. Fixes, but doesn't look like new graphics. That's what I wanted, is new graphics. Let's see what else. Oh, the Game Boy came with a wall charger.
No, did not. Everybody had one. That was.
Well, did they? So would you have to put like special batteries in it?
No, it had a battery pack, an external battery pack, and you could use that like a wall charger.
Oh, okay. Weird.
I can see if I can find a picture of it, but basically everyone had one of those.
I think anything you Google now would be like some new Alibaba thing, not like
No, it was. Yeah, I mean, it was it was a kind of rectangular with rounded corners shaped box, right? So there's a battery, and you would charge it by plugging it into the wall, but you could leave it plugged into the Game Boy and the wall at the same time.
Oh, okay.
So people just used it like a regular battery pack, as I recall. Yeah, I mean, the box literally says battery pack AC adapter.
There you go. But mine is like, it came in the box. You could just sit at home with it plugged in the wall if you wanted to. So my strangest one that I have here is that for like 1.5 years, I was really into paintball. And I was on a semi-professional team. I mean, for paintball.
For paintball.
It's, and I subscribed to a paintball magazine called GamePro. And it was, like I just said, a paintball magazine. And I specifically remember this because my team was in it once or twice, just, like the name of our team plus like the score at whatever event. And obviously, there is a GamePro video game magazine that everyone listening to this podcast read. I
Okay.
cannot find on eBay or anything a paintball magazine called GamePro, and I remember having stacks of them. So it must be like a variant of the word GamePros, or I don't know. And of course, now if you Google paintball and magazine, it just shows you like gun magazine clips for like bullets and
Oh, okay.
stuff.
Yeah, real guns.
Yeah, yeah. And so if our listeners know what magazine I'm talking about, I don't know how many of our listeners played paintball back in the day, but let's scroll down and see what Mandela effect we could find from our listeners, because we did not put this in
Yeah.
any order.
Some are in email, so I'm going to scrape them out of the email real quick. Though we'll get back to the rest of your email later if you did email something. Well, no. So Tim emailed, and his whole thing was about Mandela effect moments. It is also about the Do the Math Atari Jaguar ad campaign. So sometime later, he had learned that the TurboGrafx fudged its claims of being 16-bit by having an 8-bit CPU and 16-bit graphics processor. So his brain applied the Do the Math ad campaign to the TurboGrafx, complete with imagined bonk ads and everything. And he was shocked when he learned that he was wrong this entire time.
Wow.
Which
Nice.
that's I can see that Do the Math thing causing a lot of confusion for people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because the TurboGrafx is using a modified 6502. It's the same CPU as the NES, basically. Little. It's a variant, but it's close. It's extremely close.
Mm-hmm.
It does the same kind of. It's more on. I think they're more honest than Atari was with the Jaguar.
Oh, totally. Because it looks 16-bit. You know what I mean? Like the graphics are 16-bit. So that's all that mattered to me.
Right. So on social media, Raftronaut says, has anyone ever proven if Nintendo of America actually censored the hamster microwave in Maniac Mansion? Or is that just a myth?
I do not know.
Yeah, I personally believe the story that Nintendo asked them to censor it, but I did not do the research on that.
And then Caleb writes in and he says when he was 2, he remembers being terrified of music from an Atari 2600 game. And now that he's older, he knows that there's not really any music on the 2600. So he has no idea what that could have been.
Is he thinking? I wonder if he's thinking of Frankenstein's monster on the 2600.
I haven't played that. Does that have music?
It has like some kind of scary intro effect.
I'm totally going to bring this up so I could look at it later.
Yeah, you can bring it up. I thought that had. It was called Frankenstein's Monster. It wasn't called Frankenstein. And I thought it had some kind of like. I mean, a lot of Atari games have like a crazy sound effect.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I'm. That one I thought had a kind of jarring, like disturbing sound.
So I don't accidentally do something wrong with the audio, I'm going to wait till after to play the video I found of it.
Okay. Yeah, and this could be me completely misremembering too.
And then Starsky writes in on Discord, he thought it was a Mandela effect till a few years ago. His friend's dad had an EGA-looking Ghostbusters 2 game from the early 90s that was a lot of fun, but difficult. And he was never able to find it until a few years ago, where he links us to a YouTube video of it. And it's Ghostbusters 2 for MS-DOS, and it is EGA, and has MT32 support.
Wow.
I do think I remember this. I'm almost positive I remember this one. And let's see. I think
I don't. Yeah, I'm looking here. skip ahead. There's a lot of intro in this video. I have never seen this game before. Was there a Ghostbusters arcade game in this style?
I don't. I don't know. I feel like there was.
It looks like a Ghostbusters arcade game. I think it was.
I think so. Let's see.
Maybe not to be confused with the real Ghostbusters, which was like a heavy barrel kind of game. Yeah, see, I think I'm misremembering. I wonder if I'm misremembering. Now, there was a... I should have researched this question a little better. The game, this video that he's sharing of this Ghostbusters game reminds me a lot of another game. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, there is. So there's a Ghostbusters 2 for NES. What else? New Ghostbusters 2. That's probably... Let's see. That's for the Game Boy NES. Pal.
I gotta tell you, this Ghostbusters 2 game that he shared the video to, this looks really good.
You know what? So this is for Commodore 64 as well. I do not think there was a Ghostbusters 2 in the arcade. Interesting.
Yeah, I was just thinking like the first person views here where you're not first person, I guess it's, over the shoulder first person. I don't know what the term for that perspective is. That portion of the game, like when they're in the courthouse here or in this like parking lot or in the city park, I feel like I've seen a game that looks like this before.
Again, I'm not clicking on the link because my audio is touchy today, and I don't want to.
Okay.
I don't want to chance anything.
All right. So I think that's it. If you send us other things via email, we will read them, of course.
Yeah. And then I guess we have some Game Club games, huh?
Yeah.
So let's see. Marble Madness was mine. So if you're listening to this podcast, you know Marble Madness. It was an 84 Atari game. And it was ported to literally everything. I mean, seriously, everything at the time and even after the time. Like Java SE. It was ported to everything. And this was... what was I going to say about it? Yeah, this was coded by Mark Cerny, who designed the PlayStation 4 and the PlayStation 5. In fact, he was the person that drew the short straw that had to intro the PS5 Pro that has been in video game news lately, not in a very positive context. And so it's really interesting that he's still very dominant in the industry. But anytime I saw this in the arcade, I would play it. I loved it. Something about the aesthetic and how the intro happens with the music is just flawless to me and really charming. And for the time, the music and the graphics seem so advanced. This was the first arcade game. Now, this is Wikipedia saying this, so if I'm wrong, blame Wikipedia. The first arcade game coded in C, and because of that, it is 30 frames per second, inspired by MC Escher and Putt-Putt Golf. And it feels so good with the trackball. I don't know any ports that really use a trackball. Like, I don't know if the Apple II GS has a trackball you could use with this or something, but I actually own the NES and the Apple II GS versions of this. I do like the Apple II GS version a little bit better. The Apple II GS is almost a Super Nintendo, same CPU. So it has, a little bit better graphics than the NES. But both ports are really fantastic. The NES port, you could choose between 90 degree and 45 degree mode, and 45 degree, like my brain just can't do. Mm-hmm. I almost feel like you're supposed to hold your controller at 45 degrees as well, and then it makes sense. But at that point, just play 90 degree. I don't know. for the first time, I played the Genesis port. I actually didn't know this existed. It's by Tengen, obviously. And they tried to update it in some strange ways. So obviously it has different sounds and different music because it's a different sound chip. But they actually changed some notes for no reason. Like when you get to the finish line, it's a different sequence of notes, and I don't know why they would have done that. It's nothing bad. It's not worse. It just didn't add anything. And you play as player 2. It's a 1-player game, and you play as player 2. So your ball is red, and you start at the player 2 locations. So if any of our listeners know why that would be, please let me know. And when I got into arcade cabinet collecting, which I am not into anymore, I was on Clav all the time, and there was someone on it that owned Marble Madness 2 arcade cab. I don't know if it was the other developer. What's his name? It is Bob Flanagan. I think he was the one that would like bring it to those California arcade events. And he tried, I'm not like blaming him for anything, but since there weren't many cabs, he or other people, maybe 1 or 2 people that had these Marble Madness 2 cabs, were trying to keep the price up on it. So it's like they owned something really valuable. And it wasn't until 2022 that ROM dumps were made of that game. And I did read rumors that at the last minute, they removed the trackball and made it into a joystick game to try to, because they thought trackballs weren't for modern games. But that game never seemed really good anyway. But we're talking about the original Marble Madness, and I love this game. I could play this game all the time. There are 2 Twitch streamers that I watch all the time. Usually it's in the background while I'm working, and they are Marble Madness speedrunners. Okay. And it's just, I don't know. It's like my safe zone. It is comfort food for me. I love this game. And you had a lot of notes too on this as well.
Yeah, I didn't really play it much because I've never been very good at this game. I watched the arcade and NES speed runs, which are both under 3 minutes. Mm-hmm. So I guess I didn't really, because I'm not very good at the game, I didn't really understand that this was a very short game. So I probably could get better at it over time.
Yeah, you could beat this. If you gave it an afternoon, I think you could beat it.
Yeah, probably. The designer of this game was later the executive producer of Crash Bandicoot, and has been in the game industry for a very long time. The team that worked on this has a decent amount of overlap with the team that made Hard Drivin'.
Yeah.
At least
yes.
The artwork and testing, not the main programmer. Wikipedia is a very long write-up about the development history of this game. I'm not going to try and summarize it. I would just say go out and read that. But very long, very long. A lot of effort went into this game. I'll just leave it at that. This was a December 1984 release. So there weren't a lot of arcades that were still open then. Chains like Aladdin's Castle were, existing and maybe doing okay. But like this is about the time when local arcades were kind of drying up. Mm-hmm. So this would have been, man, if your arcade somehow survived this long, getting a game like Marble Madness, I assume would have been a very big boost. So they also mentioned there was a sequel prototyped, but it was many years later, and by then Street Fighter II was out. So this iteration of Atari scrapped the prototype in favor of a fighting game that you've never heard of.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So money lost on both sides.
Yeah.
But do you like playing Marble Madness though?
Not really. No. It's not really my thing.
Not your thing.
Yeah, I mean, I may give it another whirl at some point, but it's not. It's not the type of thing I usually get into. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, you like 720 a lot too, and I feel like this and 720 are kind of similar-ish games.
Yeah, I agree. And let's jump to your game.
So I did Treasure of Tarmin, aka Minotaur. This is easily my most played in television game. So I just have a bunch of thoughts that I wrote about the game. So the last boss, the Minotaur, if you will, is not the hardest enemy in the game. If you ever play through this, like the orange wraith with shield is way tougher than the actual last boss. I think you can. So on when you play the game, there's like a map with all the different levels in the dungeon that you can go through. You can actually go as far as like level 256 and flip back over. That sounds like a lot of levels, but it's really not that hard because as you progress through the dungeons, you can get items that let you see through walls and another item that lets you teleport through walls.
Oh.
So you get to a level, it's pretty easy for you to track down the ladder to go down to the next level. Once you get those, you can crank through more than one level a minute easily. Right? Because you can avoid all the enemies and just go straight to the ladder.
Yeah.
The weird thing is I don't like most other random dungeon games. Like there's a game called Fatal Labyrinth on the Sega Genesis that is kind of trying to be this game but with a different perspective. I think that game is completely awful compared to Treasure of Tarmin. I think part of it is they randomize what effects items have. So like in Treasure of Tarmin, a blue lightning bolt is always going to be a blue lightning bolt, right? Like, but in Fatal Labyrinth, like potions have different effect based on the color. So there's a lot of trial and error, and you end up getting poisoned a lot. And if you're not writing down what that game, the different colors do, you're gonna die.
That's really stupid. That's a stupid choice.
It was a bad choice. If everything was just consistent, then it would be fine.
Yeah.
Overall, Treasure Trove I found it to be very advanced for the time. Like there's a whole stat growth system behind the scenes. Again, because they were building, this was originally built as a Dungeons and Dragons branded game. Part of the reason it's a different name is because, once they don't have the D&D license, they own the game, but they don't have the D&D license, so they have to sell it under a different name today. And this whole stat building system kind of doesn't matter unless you're playing at a higher difficulty. Like on low difficulty, you never have to worry about building stats. This is on most Intellivision collections. It's not on the plug and play controller system. I don't know if you ever bought that. It's I don't know, it was $10 and it's barely worth that much. The DS version is I was really optimistic about, and it's just completely broken. So like when you play the game, there's like an inventory. The bottom of the screen is inventory. That is cut off on the DS version. Like there was zero QA done on this game as far as I can tell. And it means like we get to a harder fight where you have to like switch through items, you're going to die because you don't know what items you have in your inventory. And right now I'm feeling very hopeful about this game. Atari, the Atari Holdings Company, who has been doing good stuff with their catalog lately, owns this now. So, hopefully we get this on like an Intellivision 50 collection, or maybe we get it as a DLC or something. Like I feel like current iteration Atari is not going to mess this game up.
Yeah. I don't see them making a sequel or anything because it'd be Dungeons and Dragons that they would have to pay, right?
Yeah, and they don't have to. I mean, because there were 3 Dungeons and Dragons branded games on the Intellivision, and after that deal expired, Intellivision continued to make those games on collections, but under different names.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing, they're not copying like the Dungeons and Dragons rule book. Like there's none of the Dungeons and Dragons IP went into making these games. These are just fantasy games with a license. And what other options did you have for D&D branded stuff on a console?
And I tried watching a speedrun of this, and I didn't understand what was happening. It's like a 20-second speedrun.
Yeah. The world record speedrun is just get straight to the Minotaur, kill him in a couple of hits, and game over.
I have no idea how. If there's some kind of glitch that my eyes didn't see, like between frames or something.
On the easiest setting. No, it's just the game on the easiest setting.
And really, on the easiest setting, you could just run to the Minotaur and win?
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
On the easiest setting.
Interesting.
Now the enemies, if you go past the second floor, right, the enemies get progressively harder over time.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, easiest setting is kind of just meant to help you understand how the game works.
Okay.
So it's
All
just a
right.
short 2-stage playthrough.
Well, what are you going to play next? We won't for
That's a good question.
last time I forgot to
Yes.
ask about that.
It's all right. Yeah, it's fine. I'm going to play. This is why I talk about running out of games I want to talk about. I'm going to play Solstice. So this is for on the NES. It's not a Halloween game, but to me it has like a Halloween aesthetic. Like the colors and scenery look kind of Halloween to me.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of remember reading about it in Nintendo Power. I've owned a cartridge for probably 20 years. Never played it. So I think there's a very good chance I will not like this game.
Well, I can't wait to hear. I am going to play Stun Runner since it was mentioned in the Mandela effect. So either the Lynx port or it's also on Midway Arcade Treasures 3, which is on every, PS2,
Everything.
Xbox,
PS2.
everything. Yeah.
I think it's on GameCube also.
Yes. Yep. And yeah, we have some emails here. Email at
Yes.
retrogameclub.net.
Yes. I'm going to repeat that. Email at retrogameclub.net. We are eventually going to do an Ask Us Anything episode, and we have a lot of questions now. Since I've been complaining, we had few questions at the beginning. Now we have a good number of questions, but I would still like more. So email at retrogameclub.net.
Yeah.
For regular email, like something we talk about on the show, for our game club, or for the eventual Ask Us Anything.
And, technically every episode is Ask Us Anything. Just people don't.
Yes, exactly. Which of these do you want to take?
Here, I'll take the first two here since I got them here.
Okay,
So,
good.
all right. So Adam writes in. He thanks us for our years of dedication and podcasting. Hugh, I think it's mostly to you. Yes,
Yeah,
he does mention that.
I do almost no work. I'm just going to throw that out there. Rob and Zach do 1,000 times the work that I do.
But your podcasts have been a bright spot for me in my life and have been enjoyed by me and my family. I wish you all the best, the future pursuits, and heartfelt gratitude for the time and dedication for making these podcast episodes. So thank you very much, and happy Halloween. So yes, thank you so much, Adam. It was very nice, and a reason why we keep doing these. And then Jimmy writes in from the Pie Factory podcast, another fun Atari podcast, and he has a warning about Marble Madness on Game Boy Advance. The original arcade version of Marble Madness is a short game with 6 or 7 levels. There is a version of the game on the Game Boy Advance cartridge with clacks. While it looks good and has great sound and plays surprisingly well, it only has 3 levels. Fortunately, other games on the cart make up for that ripoff that is the GBA Marble Madness. And Jimmy, I tried to find that ROM, not on the internet, but in my ROM collections, and I can't find it, which is really strange because I have full catalogs. So I did not play that port this time.
Are you sure? Is it possible it's like a European release or something you didn't download?
It could be, yeah, because most of my ROM collections are US only, with the exception of like PC Engine. Like I have some Japanese collections, but yeah, I do want to see that. And I did see there is a homebrew Lynx port. I was surprised that Marble Madness wasn't released on Lynx since it is Atari, but it does not look good. That's nothing against the developer. I'm sure the Lynx is a very limited system, but it did not look good. All right, want to take the next one?
Yeah, I'll take Eric from the Pacific Northwest. He's catching up on some previous questions here. Biggest jump in generations. He would say PCs in the late 90s with dedicated graphics cards. Mind-blowing how much better games looked on PCs versus consoles. The next one would be the original 32-bit era to the PS2, GameCube, Xbox, Dreamcast era.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, a huge jump. Favorite magazines from the 90s? That's an old question, I think. I might be from last year. EGM or GamePro, and also the Sega Dreamcast magazine. Favorite retro homebrew game recommendations? Any Streets of Rage 2 hack for Genesis, Dreams of Astaborg, and Life on Mars. And he's also offering to share some photos from Portland Retro Gaming Expo 2024.
Cool. And he's in, let's see. Yep, and he's on the Discord too. So I think there's a whole section, there's a room in Discord for events. So I'm pretty sure those are in there, those photos. And we covered all of the social media because that was all Mandela effect. And our next question of the episode is, have you ever locked yourself into an unwinnable game state by an unfortunate save timing? That's funny.
Yes. Or any other time you've entered an unwinnable game state. There are two games I like that have unwinnable game states.
Can I guess one?
Yeah.
Is King's Quest V one of them?
No, actually, that is one though. I forgot that. It is bad because that can happen really, really late in the game, right?
Is that it's like the mouse or the cat or something, right? Or no?
It's like it's like something you don't do at the beginning of the game, and then you can't win it.
Yeah.
So, Phantasy Star 3 has an unwinnable game state at the very beginning in the game. Rather than fix it, literally tells you to reset the game and start over.
Wow. So they knew it happened and they could have just flipped that bit in memory, but they don't?
Yeah, they could have done... There's a really super simple fix for this. But they didn't do... There's actually two ways to get into this unwinnable game state, but... there's... Okay, so at the very beginning of the game, there's two ways to get to an unwinnable game state. One of them, the game tells you that you just messed up, but the second one requires you to kind of... It's more of a bug. It's more of like an exploit. So in Phantasy Star 3, there's an item called the Escapipe, which teleports you out of the current dungeon you are in. So at the very beginning of the game, you can't leave the first town. But there's a store that sells the Escapipe, but you have no money. But you can unequip all your stuff, sell your stuff, and have just enough money to buy the Escapipe.
Okay.
And then at the beginning of the game, you get locked in like the castle dungeon. And what you're supposed to do is wait for someone to come and break you out, which then sets up a bunch of game events and has you like fleeing the town. This is all the first 5 minutes of the game. This is not a major spoiler. But if you don't want to wait for that person to come break you out, you can use the Escapipe, which warps you back to like the king's room, where the king scolds you for using the Escapipe and now creating yourself an unwinnable game state.
That's funny.
So clearly the testers figured that out. And then the very old Falcom game, Tombs and Treasure, also has an unwinnable game state where it tells you have to like load your previous save or reset. It's basically a puzzle that if you do it in the wrong order, you lock yourself in a room with no way out.
Nice. Well,
Well,
if anyone wants to write in for, even catching up on Mandela Effect for our Ask Us Anything episode, are we going to do that next? Is that our next episode? Should we do that?
I was gonna do it for like at the end of the year when I decide not to do this anymore.
So we got time on that one.
Oh, real quick, E6, I also entered an effectively unwinnable state. Luckily, I kept multiple save games. In E6, if you go to the last dungeon without upgrading all your equipment, you are in for a bet. You can't leave the last dungeon once you enter it. You might remember that. Like you enter the last dungeon and you're in there permanently.
Yeah.
No escape. And if you have not upgraded your equipment to the max levels, you are majorly hosed.
Yeah.
I think it's probably technically possible to win, but like I'm fighting the second to last boss and I'm doing like 1 damage to it every hit. And it has, I don't know, 100,000 hit points or something insane.
Yep. I think that happened to me, actually. It was either that or, what was the one on the Vita? Was that
Well, Vita had
7?
well,
I think it was
7
E7 that
PSP.
happened to me.
Okay. Well, 7 was a PSP game, but you could have played it on the Vita, of course. 8 was on the Vita, and I mean, East Origin was later released on the Vita, but that's not what you're thinking of.
No. It definitely happened to me on E7 because that's what usually in East, if you save outside of the boss's room. But in E7, you save in the boss's room.
Yeah, so East 4 remake is also on Vita.
Yep. That's a great game.
Yes, with the giant box. That's another giant box game I own.
But yeah, so if you play Stun Runner, Solstice, if you play Marble Madness or Treasures of Tarmin, aka Minotaur, if you build this Super Game Boy Plus or know what the heck the new Bleem thing is, or if you use that other programming language that was recently recovered. And what else? Mandela Effect, Ask Us Anything stuff, please email us at email@retrogameclub.net. Go on our Discord, which is in our link tree. We're also on other socials that Zach takes care of. And I think that about wraps it up.
Yeah, so thanks for listening.